Was it a disappointment that you could not become a doctor?
It was not very mature.
You started your career as an administrative assistant at NIMS, Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences.
They didn't teach me, but around 5 months' time I understood probably that's not the place for me to really do what I wanted to do.
Kakala Subara was a legend of his life.
The people used to call him knuckle breaker.
After some time you moved back to mainstream administration with Indo-American Cancer Center.
Again, the same experience for me as I was in NIMS.
Can you take us through that journey?
So before I was given that permanent letter on to my hand, I
in fact, somewhere you mentioned that was the turning point of your career.
I thought only one thing at that time.
What was it?
I want to learn.
What you wanted to crack?
I'm not thinking of whether it is NIMS or whether it is IHS or whether it is what.
What is it?
We were contract employees because it was not the direct government.
So when you decided to do your hospital management,
the entire AP Telangana, cancer is absolutely no underserved.
What was that experience?
It was for a long time.
Welcome to Conversations. I'm Suresh Kochatal. It's often that we see doctors running hospitals or even doctors running big hospital chains. But I have with me somebody who wanted to be a doctor, could not become one, but still runs a group of hospitals. Actually started by running different kinds of hospitals. And finally, he's running something of his own right now. I have with me Sridhar Peddireddy, who can be as different from others in his field. An entrepreneur who believes that healthcare, if run well, if provided well, can do good to mankind. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Suresh Kochatal.
Sridharji, first question to you would be obviously was it a disappointment that you could not become a doctor?
It was for a long time because as a child I wanted to become a doctor. But the generation from where I come, I am born 1973. So the generation from where I come, parents used to think kids who can sit and study for 8 to 10 hours can only become doctors. But I was a hardened sports guy. So the minute I come from the school, I used to throw my bags and the entire evening I used to play, get very tired, play cricket, play whatever on the roads I used to play, come and then hit the bed because I was very tired. I used to get up very early in the morning around 4 and then start my studies 2-3 hours, and then I always scored very good marks. I was always among the top 3 or 4 in the school. But somehow my dad felt that's not enough because doctors going means that they should have the capacity to sit for 8-10 hours. So they forced me to do something non-medical. I had to do because we are not this generation kids where we can bully our parents. But yeah, it did hurt me a lot for a long time.
Where were you born? Where were your early days?
Born, brought up in Hyderabad.
Totally.
Studied, except I went to Wharton for a year to do my healthcare management program. Otherwise, my entire 50 years I have lived in Hyderabad.
And your siblings?
I have one sister. She's also born, brought up in Hyderabad.
And your parents?
My father, unfortunately, is no more. My mother stays with me.
So, going to Wharton would have been a culture shock for many people studying out of Indian colleges because the mode of teaching, the mode of learning is very different. So, when you decide to do your hospital management, you must have had a fairly good idea about what you wanted to crack, what you wanted to bring the difference in the Indian healthcare sector.
Yes.
What was it?
See, I thought I should be able to do a lot of service to the public by becoming a doctor, which didn't happen. Then I thought when this course came up, it was, I think, I'm one of the first 1 or 2 batches in this so-called healthcare management program. So, in fact, I joined MBA because when I joined that year, the course didn't start. And 3 months later, this was announced. And then I quit my MBA and took this up. I thought only one thing at that time. If I'm not able to make clinical difference to the lives of the people, at least I should be able to make difference in terms of giving good healthcare, in terms of creating good facilities. So that was my aim, that I should be able to create quality healthcare facilities, which is a backbone. We are the back runners. The front runners are obviously the doctors. So that is where I thought I should take this course and indirectly come into the stream, which I always loved.
Why did you come back to India? You could have stayed back in the US?
This course I did very later because after doing my hospital management, working here for 15 years, since I studied at a very early stage of this program getting started, it was not very matured. So I wanted to have a recap of what the entire healthcare is in the world, not just in India. So I took a 1-year break from my work and then studied and came back. It was only to improve my skills,
refresh it.
But I never wanted to leave India. My passion was to work.
That's wonderful, because most of them, when they go to America, coming back is out of question. So you started your career as an administrative assistant at NIMS, Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences.
Yes.
What was it like?
That's a very unique opportunity I got, because I was the first person in Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences Administrative Department as a non-doctor to get a posting there. They started me as an admin trainee. Dr. Kakala Subbarao appointed me. He liked me so much that he took me as an admin trainee, because there was no way to take me as a full-time employee there. After 6 months, then, in the process, they wanted to make me permanent. But around 5 months' time, I understood probably that's not the place for me to really do what I wanted to do. So before I was given that permanent letter to my hand, I resigned.
Kakala Subbarao was a legend of his lifetime.
Yes.
You then went on to the Institute of Health Systems run by Prashant Mahapatra.
Yes.
Which included a number of WHO and other World Bank projects. Yes. What was that experience? Which has been very, very different from what you were doing at NIMS.
Amazing. I would say what I am today, I would say 50% of that credit should go to Institute of Health Systems and Dr. Prashant Mahapatra. It so happened when I was working in NIMS, I realized the MHM I did was more of an extended MBA. They didn't teach me the real hospital healthcare management. Obviously, as I said, being first, second batch passed out, the course has not been developed as much as it should be. Then I heard out Dr. Prashant Mahapatra in one of the conferences, and I felt I should work with him, because in that conference I came to know he runs a small NGO. So I decided to work with him, and then I went and met him. Then he said, "You're leaving NIMS and then coming to me. Are you sure?" I said, "At this age, I want to learn. I'm not thinking of whether it is NIMS or whether it is IHS or whether it is what. I want to learn. If you promise me that you'll give me good work, I have no problem. I'm not looking at salary. I'm not looking at the size of the institution and all those things." So he took me, and it was an amazing experience. I had 3 projects that I have done. One is the performance appraisal of healthcare system in India, where I went to nook and corner of every rural area in AP and Telangana. And I did a lot of study in terms of how the PHCs, CHCs, area hospitals, district hospitals were working. There was another study where it was a comparative study between private and healthcare sector in AP. So there I picked up 3 cities, Vizag, Warangal and Hyderabad. We compared how the private healthcare sector is running in these centers. So that gave me complete exposure to grassroots healthcare industry. And the way he trains, people used to call him knuckle breaker. But to my, whether I was lucky or whatever, I was his blue-eyed boy and never had any bad experience with him. And he is a great teacher. And I still feel, as I said, 50% of what I am is because of
in fact, somewhere you mentioned that it was a turning point of your career.
Yes.
After that, it was Velugu.
Yes.
State government project, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
What was that project like?
See, as I said, before I move into mainstream administration, I thought I should learn healthcare from where it means, grassroots. I always tell that to my students also when they ask me. So Velugu was one project which was run by then government, which was aiming at institutional building in terms of rural people, their livelihood building, and health care, to bring healthcare system to the rural people. So since again there's a lot of things that I could have understood and learned from the grassroots level, I picked up this project. I worked there for 3 years. I worked with some great IAS officers like Mr. Raju Koppalu Raju and then Vijay Kumar. So when you work with these people who have some vision and all, and the exposure we get in terms of working in 16 districts, 22 districts, it gives you a complete different perspective. When you work for one hospital, it's a one hospital. But when you work with NGOs, when you work with government institutions, the exposure you get is very huge. So I thought first 6 years of my life, I should spend in only learning. And then I'll take up the mainstream administration, which is ultimately my dream.
That is great, because usually when people, once they get into a job, they never go back to learning. I tell this often to MBA students, but I guess, as you said, in case of Wharton, even ISB, they insist on practical at least 3-4 years, so that when they teach in the class, you can always say, yeah, that was also, it happened to me.
Yes.
So, but after some time, you moved back to mainstream administration with the Indo-American Cancer Center. What was working there like?
See, after I finished my 3-year stint with Velugu, again, the same experience for me as I was in NIMS. We were contract employees because it was not the direct government employment. But after 3 years, we were at the stage of getting permanent. But then I felt now it's enough. I should now come back to the administration, which I wanted to always do. Then I thought, with all the experience I had with IHS and Velugu, I'll be able to contribute wherever I take up a job. Then there were offers from most of the corporate hospitals after 6 years of my experience in these places where I worked. But I then came across through one of the friend that there's an opportunity available in Indo-American Cancer Institute and Research Center, Basatarakam Cancer Hospital. I went there, I gave the interview. Then I liked it because it was a very small center. It was 100-bedded, but it was in a very big campus of 7 acres. Then I realized the entire AP Telangana, cancer is absolutely underserved. People are going to Tata Memorial Hospital or Adyar. So I thought, why don't I join here? This is where the opportunity lies. Because if we can create a good onco facility here, then we are doing a lot of service to the state where we are born. So, and the opportunity was there because the cases were rising at that point of time. I joined there in 2004. So, and then another very senior doctor from Apollo also joined around the same time as a clinical director and surgical oncologist. I joined as an administrator. I found him also very enthusiastic. So we thought together we'll be able to make a difference and create a good onco facility in Hyderabad. So therefore I joined that place.
Dr. Mohan Vamsi was your godfather?
Yes. Mohan Vamsi was, yes.
And godfather. Then you both decided that you would set up Omega Hospitals.
Yeah, after working there for 6 years, we developed that Indo-American Cancer Institute and Research Center from 100-bedded to 500-bedded hospital. Almost name any technology in oncology, we were the first to introduce there, right from Rapid-R, PET-CT, cyclotron, a lot of technologies we have introduced. And it has reached its peak and it could have still grown further. But then Dr. Mohan Vamsi had a dream to start his own brand and he asked if I can join him. He being a clinician himself, he had to be with his patients till the last day. So I came out 6 months before because at that time I had to choose loyalty versus a comfort again because it was a very comfortable job for me. Being a chief administrative officer or COO for Indo-American Cancer Institute is like a IAS job after a point of time. Initial running around was done, but then we had huge quarters and we were staying in the campus, no headache of traffic and all those things. But when they said, he and few other doctors wanted to start their own hospital, I said, okay, I'll help them. So I came out 6 months before they came out, and the entire bank loan, construction, everything of Omega I did. And we started Omega in 2010. I was the founder CEO.
So it became the second largest oncology brand in India.
Yeah.
But I think there is a common thread now emerging from Indo-American to Omega Oncology. So you wanted to be kind of a niche sector that you want to operate.
Yes.
Of course, it's a big sector, but still niche, that is oncology.
Yeah.
Any reason?
As I said, when I first visited Basatarakam in 2004, I felt oncology is very underserved in Hyderabad. See, you can join any hospital, but the cardiology facilities were well developed by that time. Neuro facilities were well developed. I always felt earning and service should go hand in hand. So this is the place I felt I can do both the things. Therefore, I wanted to concentrate in cancer so that the more you develop cancer facilities in Hyderabad, you are growing professionally, you are earning your money, and at the same time, you're doing a lot of service to the society.
So this is about, in 8 years, you built this brand to where it is.
Omega, I was there for 11 years.
11 years.
But in 8 years, yes, by 2008, it was second largest cancer chain in India.
Then came CNC, the City Neuro Center. I'm just going logically. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because this again was established by a group of doctors. Dr. Sabasiva Reddy and then Chandrasekhar Reddy. Again, small unit, which you took to a certain stage and then grew from there.
Yeah,
Can you take us through that journey?
See, what happened is we were expanding Omega as the demand increased. We started that as a 115-bed hospital, then we made it 145, then we made it 175, then 225. We were developing Omega around the same campus in MLA Colony. Then we wanted to add another 100 beds. So we took a building opposite the Omega main building and we did half the construction. The state got divided. Then the strategy for Omega has changed in my mind, and I discussed with the chairman and said a lot of his patients come from Andhra. So I told, since the state got divided, instead of expanding more beds in Hyderabad, why don't you do centers in Andhra? So that if not now, tomorrow, after 5 years, after 6 years, eventually when the local, one state got divided, the local facilities will get developed, then the patient base might cut down from there to Hyderabad. Then he agreed with my idea, and then we decided to start centers in Kurnool, Guntur and Visakhapatnam. Then we thought, what will you do with this center? Because already we took it on lease. Half the construction was over. We were trying to add 120 beds there. Then I got an idea that, cardiology, there are a lot of single specialty hospitals around. Oncology, Omega, Basatarakam is there. Neuro, there is one center around Kachigoda area, but if you look at the new city, there was no specialty neuro center. So I wanted to see if we can explore starting a neuro center there. Dr. Sridhar and 4-5 doctors already started a small brand called City Neuro Center, and they were doing hospital in hospital. If I'm not wrong, at that time it was Medicity Hospitals near Secretariat. Right. So one day I went and met Dr. Sridhar saying, you have 5-6 very high quality doctors with you. You're doing a hospital in hospital thing, which is a very small for your capacity, I feel. Can we do a standalone neuro facility? Then we had a lot of discussions. Eventually, Dr. Sridhar said, if you are involved with us, both in terms of operations and as an investor, then we'll have the confidence. So I did a triangular deal there. Omega was one of the investors. City Neuro Center was the group of doctors were another group of investors, and I also invested some money. Then till the time it was started and streamlined for about a year, I was very closely associated with City Neuro Center, and that's how CNC happened.
So CNC, again, you seem to be a serial entrepreneur. Somebody who in today's startup ecosystem would be a darling, actually. So you helped set it up, helped it grow, and then exit.
Yeah.
Again, you went to a new one. And this time, of course, now with the hospital management masters, you set up Omega, we saw that. And then in 2018, after CNC, you came with Renova Hospitals. What prompted you to do this?
Sir, as a non-medical, I always felt, as I said, clinician is the one who will be in the front end, treat patients. As an administrator, I'll be in the back end, help them to create the ecosystem to make sure the institution is successful. That was my idea. So I always backed quality clinicians to become entrepreneurs and help them to start their own setups. But after a point, what I realized is I basically always worked for respect. That's why if you see, I've never bothered, whether it is Nizam Institute of Medical Sciences, or one is to learn, one is to be respected. I always felt money is a byproduct, it will come on its own. What I felt after developing the institutions to a certain point, you don't get the same kind of respect that you get when it's a startup.
True.
So that is where I felt little uncomfortable, and I thought, why don't I do something on my own, where I'll be able to have my head up and work till the time I want to work. So then I felt, okay, I helped Basatarakam to grow, I helped Omega to grow, City Neuro Center to grow. So why don't I start my own brand? And that's how Renova happened. In 2018, it happened, but it happened in a two different forms. I wanted to resign and come out of Omega in 2018 and start straight an oncology center, because that is where I belong to. I've been doing so much work in oncology. But for some reasons, I had to stay back in Omega because of my relationship with the management and all for 3 more years. So I ran both the brands, Omega and Renova, for 3 years with a non-compete. I mean,
I was about to ask you that. Was there no conflict of interest?
Yeah, because I made sure I don't do oncology in my group, and they don't do multispecialty, because the second generation was just coming into Omega at that point of time. So they needed some time for them to come take over the center responsibility and all those things. So because of that 3 years, I did multispecialty. I started 4 small multispecialty hospitals. Then eventually in 2021, when I completely came out, I started oncology.
So it was your own baby.
Yeah.
Now you're your own boss.
Yeah.
But then you went into Rajasthan and you wanted to set up in different places.
Yeah.
Now I read somewhere along the way that you had the philosophy that big cities had their hospitals.
Yeah.
But it is the small, medium and small cities which didn't have those.
Yeah.
And there is where you wanted to make a difference.
Correct.
Do you feel that today that objective has been met?
To large extent, because I have started a center in Warangal. I have started a center in Jaipur. Now I am starting a center in Alwar, Prayagraj, Ranchi. So to some extent it has already been met, but there is a lot to do because oncology is a huge space. India is a big country. Oncology, especially in North and Northeast, is completely underserved.
Sure.
I am still around 50. There is another 15 years for me to grow. My dream is to make sure, if not me, see, if I prove there's a model that is successful, tomorrow 10 people will start this. It's not just me. The scope, the space is so much that there can be 10 Renovas that will come up. If I prove going to smaller centers also is viable, a lot of others will come. Then I think my main dream will get fulfilled.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that way you are now kind of adding more and more. And does it become a problem at a later stage in managing such a huge? Do you need to clone yourself in 10 different places?
Sir, this I have mitigated very much in the beginning, even in Omega. See, what happens generally in healthcare is any big brand you see, the quality of treatment you get for a particular brand in Hyderabad, the same quality of treatment will not come in Tier 2 city or Tier 3 city. The reason for that is availability of clinicians. It's about doctors. Doctors give you the quality. We only give infrastructure and facilitate them. They are the front runners. So what I have done in Omega also is that wherever we start a center, we started on a separate private limited company where Omega or today Renova, we have a holding company which holds majority, and we make sure the doctors invest anywhere from 1 to 49% because we have to keep majority for future consolidation, so that they take care of the clinical quality. Once clinical quality is maintained, administratively reflecting systems is no rocket science. I mean, we have a corporate office here, 2 floors. There are a lot of audits today. MIS is so strong. Audits are so strong. So that is not an issue. The main issue comes in terms of bringing quality doctors on board in smaller towns and to make them work with you for 10 years. Even if some doctors join you in a small town, they immediately after 1 or 2 years push to the bigger cities because of lifestyle and other things. But once they put the money in their center and you give them a feeling, boss, this is your center, you are the boss. I'm only a facilitator. That's where the whole quality issue will be.
The sense of ownership comes in.
Yes.
Now, along the way, I mean, after doing so much of things, where do you think your milestone is going to be, next milestones in terms of, say, 50 hospitals, 25 hospitals?
Sir, I have it. I mean, you hit the spot. I have a dream to do at least 50 hospitals because we are starting around 3 per year till now, from the time we started. And if you run at the same pace, because today funding is not a problem, because in oncology, everyone knows that if the right operator is there, the money will grow. So funding is not a problem. So even if I work for another 10 to 12 years, I should be able to achieve that dream.
In terms of oncology, when you compare the rest of the world, now I know we have got the best of technology, we got the best of doctors, we got the best of medicines too, maybe with exceptions. Where do you think India stands vis-a-vis other countries in terms of
so we are as good as
oncology?
Anybody today, because see, initially the main difference used to come in terms of radiation technology, because the equipments are very costly. People are not able to afford. One radiation machine will cost you about 25-30 crores. A PET CT, which is the main diagnostic tool, will cost you about 10-15 crores. So these two were the main issue. When the world was using linear accelerator, we used to use cobalt. When world was using Rapidac, we used to use basic linear accelerators. But today there's a forum called Astro. Every year new technologies get launched in Astro. The day it launches in Astro, next day it's available in India. So technology-wise, and doctors, we are the best in the world. They are the main people to treat any disease. And technology, we are.
In terms of pharma, where are we in terms of
pharma? Again, see, we are the pharma capital of the world. So most of the again, the affordability issue comes. We call it as innovator molecules. Initially, what used to happen many years back is when something is innovated in US or in Germany or anywhere, for that medicine to come to India used to take a year or 2 years time. That's where people used to go there and get treated. The reason is innovator medicines are very costly. So one vial or one unit might cost 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. So they never used to find a market in India. Therefore, they never used to export to India. But today the market is available. People are willing to spend. And once the patent of initial 2-3 years is done, there are a lot of local generic brands that come up and which will slash the prices also.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman in her last budget, that's a 25-26 budget, announced that we're going to have screening cancer centers across India. Obviously, the fact is that if it's not screened in time,
Yes.
you don't detect in time, and then the disease progresses to the next level.
Yes.
And that is a tragedy in many Indian
Correct.
cities and many cases in India. Do you think the time has now come, like we do cardiology, we do even ophthalmology checks? Do you think the cancer screening across India will help detect more patients in time for treatment?
It's extremely important, sir, especially for women cancers, because men are very unfortunate because the kind of cancers we get mostly are head and neck, stomach cancers, colon cancers. The symptoms are very confusing. For example, there's a stomach burn. You will start right from a general physician to the medical gastro, and then nobody thinks it's cancer straight away. Like that, if there is you have some lung congestion issues and all, you'll go to a pulmonologist. All coughs are not cancers. So men, unfortunately, even if you screen every year, it's very difficult to catch cancer in the initial stage. But women are very lucky that way, because if you see 10 cancers in women, 10 women having cancer, 8 of them will be either breast or cervical. And both the cancers can be identified very early stage through screening. Breast, of course, it's a self-breast examination. Awareness is important. Cervical cancer, there are kits where pap smear and all will catch. Except PSA in men, no other cancers can be identified through regular health checks. Unless the symptoms come and then you are very diligent to think after a point, maybe is it cancer. But still, whatever it is, women are the backbone of the country. So if you can keep them healthy, then the family is healthy. Especially women cancers with the government initiative can be screened early. It gives a lot of advantage.
Again, one more thing that happens is when you hear the word cancer, it's not like having even a heart attack sounds very good actually when you compare it with cancer. I'm just being on the lighter side of it. But the moment you say cancer, then the immediate tone changes. One is how fast the disease will spread, how dreaded it is, which stage it is. Second is the cost of treating it.
Correct.
Do you think compare ourselves with other countries in the world in terms of costing at least? And how, of course, we have the bottom pyramid, we have people being covered under various state government insurance. The elderly are now covered under the Pradhan Mantri schemes for the elderly insurance. Where do you think in India the cancer treatment needs more funding? And where do you think those funding should come from if a person needs to get treated? Because some of the cancers will cost you a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
Where do you think the gap between viability funding and a person spending out-of-pocket expenses?
So there are two things which will burn the pockets in cancer for the patients. Otherwise, if you see the overall cost-wise, we are very, very less compared to the West. If we are probably 25-30% as the West in terms of overall cost of the treatment. But for the kind of background Indians come from, financial background, that 25% itself is very costly. But what actually burns are two things. One, as I said, radiation machines are very costly. Two, the innovator medicines are very costly. So if India can give more priority to inventing medicines as quickly as the new cancer drugs, as quickly as the West can do, and then 70% of the chemotherapy cost comes down. Because these innovator medicines, for example, 6 cycles are required, it costs about 9 lakhs or 10 lakhs. So those are not getting somehow innovated in India. They always are getting innovated outside and they are coming to India. Till the patent period of 3-4 years is finished, we are not able to the same drug which costs you 2 lakhs. Once the local companies start manufacturing after the patent time, they'll cost 20,000 or 50,000. That's a huge difference because the cost of manufacturing in India is very less. The second, linear accelerators. So what has happened is the government has taken a great initiative in terms of Make in India, well appreciated. But when the technology is not available in India, then what is adding up to the cost is, for example, I buy a linear accelerator for 20 crores. I pay almost close to 37-38% customs. So that comes to about 7-8 crores. So instead, I think the government should start subsidizing in terms of these linear accelerators when they get imported. So once you do these two things, because it's a simple formula. How much you buy, that much you charge the patient, because you need to be viable after a point of time. So if these two things can be done, then I think a lot of cost, because the middle class people are the one who are suffering. As you said, for the lower middle class people and in poverty, below poverty line people, these schemes are helping a lot. And the rich are always able to afford themselves. These middle class people who cannot come into the schemes like Argistry and who cannot afford, they are the people who are suffering.
In fact, as you rightly mentioned, the mission also has a life.
Yes.
And after some time, it has to
it has to be replaced again.
But you also run an NGO kind of setup, because you feel that one has to give back to the society from where one comes from. It is not just about making money. So can you take us through your foundation and what activities do you do this?
So it's called as Dhani Foundation. So we wanted to concentrate mainly on health, which I come from, and education. So my wife takes the responsibility of that. We picked up one area called Peddireddy in a place which is a place in Vijayanagaram. So my wife identifies all the women who are not women, actually teenage girls who are having nutrition problems. So we pick up those girls, and then she gives a lot of help in terms of developing their health, and also few children from those villages we give education through Dhani Foundation. And the last but not the least, we support a lot of funding in terms of developing temples in those areas. So one is a pure philosophy kind of interest. The other one is something which I wanted to give back to the society. Health is obviously my subject, and education is something which I think is the main important area where any one of us should concentrate.
Very noble thoughts, actually.
Thank you.
But end of it, when you sit back and look at your role, and you rightly said you got 15 more years, but I'm sure you got another 10 more years to add to that, because as long as one can keep running, one can keep moving. Age is only a number. So the fact is also that you're proved as example. It is not that you come fresh out and say, I'm going to set up a chain of hospitals. You showed that how you can do with Omega, with CNC, and now with Renova. You have proved your competence, either in Indo-American or in a very, very small way in NIMS. When you look at your career and when you say that entrepreneurs in healthcare sector are as innovative, are as resourceful as in any other sector. Because often healthcare is looked upon saying, why do you want to make money in health? It should be given free, but then money doesn't come free. You have to go negotiate with your investors. You have to speak to them. They expect a certain amount of return. And there's nothing called a free lunch that is out there. So when you look at that, when you started your career and now, between Omega and say between Renova, what changes happened in the Indian healthcare landscape in terms of funding, technology you spoke about already, but to set up a chain of hospitals, is it easy now? Or was it easy earlier, or it's still tough?
It's quite easy, sir, because I'll tell you the biggest problem that people who wanted to set up healthcare facilities were facing is getting funding from banks, because they always see, healthcare hospitals. You cannot attach anything. You cannot, like other businesses, you cannot take over and all those things. There's a certain, protection that the society gives when it comes to hospitals and schools. So funding from banks was very difficult, and the collateral requirement, because if, for example, a doctor wants to start a hospital, from where will he get, if it's a 550 crore project, from where will he get 50 crore collateral? Those were the times. I'm talking of 15 years back, even when we started Omega also, I knew how much collateral and all we had to manage. From there to today, where government has come up with extremely good schemes, like now, Government of India has instructed banks, RBI has instructed banks, they have started special schemes that they should give loan to hospitals at 25% collateral and 25% margin. And also banks have also realized that equipment can be funded as, with equipment as collateral.
Right.
So if you're talking of a 100 crore project where 50 crore equipment is required, there's no collateral for 50 crore. And balance 50 crore, only 25% collateral is required. So this made the startups, life easy. So you're starting, and once you start, you're successful. Of course, the first has to be successful, then the funding comes. Next round of equity, which we call the funding comes very easily. Now there are so many private equities, so many HNIs who want to be in the healthcare space, because it's not just about getting a satisfaction of giving service, but we know there is a lot of value and valuation that is coming into healthcare because of the world looking at Indian healthcare system to grow multifold going forward.
An obvious question would be, before I close, is technology is a big differentiator.
Yes.
We saw that in the Operation Sindoor. We have never realized that we have that kind of technology which really works. I'm sure healthcare is also something similar. You did mention that it's very expensive to import from abroad. Making in India, say a company like GE or Siemens or anybody else making the same product in India will think twice before doing it, because the volumes are not that huge.
Correct.
But do you think a time has come for Indian entrepreneurs also, especially people like you, to think, okay, can we start investing in manufacturing, in technology manufacturing for hospitals? Has that thought crossed your mind?
It did cross my mind, but I'm encouraging a lot of others, who have this interest, because for me, diversification right now is a little difficult, but you have hit the right point, sir. The market is huge now. I mean, for example, initially, people used to call linear accelerator as white elephant. Nobody used to invest in linear accelerator. But today, with the rise in cancer cases and the awareness to get treated, previously they used to call radiation as current. People are given current. Of course, when cobalt machines were giving radiation, the situation was like that. But now the quality has improved a lot. So general awareness has increased. The number of cases has increased. Diagnosis has bettered. So if you look at ROI also, I think setting up facilities to manufacture linear accelerators in India, PET CT already has started to manufacture in India. It will definitely be a highly viable project. Anyone hearing to this, if someone interested, I can help them. And I'm also encouraging few of my friends who are into other businesses to do this. I can give a back-end support, but front-end, it becomes a conflict for me. I have seen one equipment manufacturing vendor buying a hospital in Hyderabad, and it was a disaster because you can't be on both sides of the table.
So there is obviously, you stick to your core competence.
Yeah.
That is what. Yeah. Dr. Sridhar Peddireddy, I know it's wonderful speaking to you. I wish I could go on and on, but I'm sure that as you would be remembered as, because somebody who knows how to set up the business and run it, so that the doctors can concentrate on their core competence, which is delivering quality healthcare. Take that load off their mind, getting funding, setting it up, running it, and making it a success. Wonderful talking to you, and I wish when we speak next, we'll have something more to add on to this.
Thank you so much,
very much,
Suresh Kochetti. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sridhar Peddireddy garu, who actually made a difference in a dozen circumstances in different hospitals that he started with and has built up. And I'm sure he's not kind of thrown in the towel or even not resting on his laurels. He's now moving ahead, establishing more centers as we go along, and in a niche like oncology, where there is a huge demand in India. And there is, of course, a number of patients who are looking forward to getting treatment at an affordable cost. All these and more make it very interesting in the days to come. And surely we will come back for more. Thank you for watching. Jai Hind.